Boxingego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. WBC heavyweight champion Deontay "The Bronze Bomber" Wilder, his manager, spoke on the 50-50% split for a potential Joshua Wilder fight. Stay tuned. What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, the channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Shout out to Yahoo Sports and Chris Mannix. He has a podcast, link is in the description, and he spoke to Wilder's manager, Shelly Finkel, who also, he spoke at the press conference for Wilder's last two fights. I was at the Stavern fight, so I seen him there. And then this last one, after Luis Ortiz, he had some documents or something from Eddie Hearn claiming that Eddie Hearn has dropped off and never kept in contact about making Joshua Wilder. Fast forward to the future, Yahoo Sports, during this podcast, again, link in the description, when they were interviewing Wilder's manager, this is what he had to say. The fact of the matter is, I'm not negotiating on the 50-50% premise, like the purse split of 50-50. If the deal is right and it's not exactly 50-50, we'll take it. That is not an issue. It is a monetary thing. I don't pay for rent by percentages. I pay for rent by what the fighter gets, and that's what we're looking for. I love this from Shelly Finkel. I really do. He goes on to say, I believe that Joshua is a credit to the sport. He is the perfect storm. He won a gold medal at the Olympics in 2012, being a London fighter, and built his championship there. And you got to give him all the credit in the world. All we want is who we believe is the first or second best heavyweight in the world to get in the ring with Joshua to prove he's the best and prove who's the best. And we're willing to do a contract with the rematch clause. So if he believes he's the best, there should be no issue. He also talks about past dealings, and he says, what I said was that November 29th, 2017, I met with Barry Hearn, which is Eddie's father, right? And he's talking about what I mentioned earlier, the press conference where he spoke up. And he said that he believed he could bring more people to Vegas at a higher ticket price, that we could make more money than if we fought in the UK. I said to him, we're open to fight either place. If you're ready, we could make a deal, right? And then they also talked about the Dillian White at the O2 Arena in February. He says, sure, if we can make Joshua. I got a letter later that day, and it was from Eddie. He says, hi, Shelly. Glad you had a good chin wag with the old man. I laugh a little because this is language I never could have made up. I will get the respective P&L profits and losses to you this week for discussion. All the best, Eddie. That was on November 29th. I have not heard from Eddie Hearn since. Then he goes out and says that we were asking for this and we were asking for that. We haven't asked for anything. When they make these ridiculous statements, I'll counter just to save face. We're ready to fight him. We're ready to do it whenever. Now, again, I'm digging what Shelly Finkel is saying. And I've been very vocal, very respectful to both parties. I like Anthony Joshua and I like Deontay Wilder. But my priority is boxing. And I really want to see the heavyweight division back to the forefront of boxing. That's what I grew up on. People like Mike Tyson's and the great GOAT Muhammad Ali, right? Razor Ruddock, Tommy Morrison, George Foreman, Larry Holmes, Ernie Schaefer. I mean, I don't have to do this all day. You guys get who is top name heavyweights. But I want to see that. I want to see the heavyweight division rise back in terms of its prominence. And to do that, it needs great fights. I've told you, Joshua Wilder is a great fight. People want to see it. And I'm not even trying to choose sides, but the evidence looks to support what Finkel says a whole lot more than what I've heard from Team Joshua / Eddie Hearn, right? And I can give you countless countless examples of this. For example, why did Eddie Hearn, he does double talking sometimes. What I call double talking is where you say one thing and then you say something else. You know what I mean? And it's like a positive plus a negative. What does that equal? You know what I'm saying? And that's double talking. For example, see, I don't just talk about it. I will give you guys examples. Eddie Hearn, and I'm talking about all in regards to Joshua Wilder. Wilder calls out Joshua. I want to fight Joshua. I want to fight Joshua. Stop running, Joshua. Eddie Hearn's scared. He don't want to make the fight. Come on, Joshua. That type of stuff, right? Eddie Hearn, somewhere in there, throws in the name Dillian Whyte. Nobody was talking about Dillian Whyte versus Wilder. In fact, Wilder just fought, which most boxing fans, most serious boxing fans, not no bias one way or the other, super biased people, most people would say who Wilder just fought, an undefeated, unknocked out until Wilder just knocked him out, Luis King Kong Ortiz, would probably be a bigger threat, right? And somehow Eddie Hearn, in the midst of Joshua Wilder talk, he throws out, not just behind the scenes, but also publicly, he wants to make a fight with Wilder coming to the UK for Dillian Whyte, February 3rd. We even have the date. He did say the O2 Arena. So my thing is, why is Dillian Whyte fighting the likes of Lucas Brown? If he's so ready for a title shot, why didn't you make Anthony Joshua versus Dillian Whyte part 2? You know what I'm saying? Instead of Joseph Parker, because they know they already got past him and he's not the main priority. And as far as like, oh, Wilder needs it to build his fan base, no, he's doing just fine. He was on ESPN First Take. This Wilder versus Ortiz fight did 1.2 million at its peak, 1.1 average million homes on Showtime. Showtime is smaller than HBO in terms of total subscriptions, and that's the highest rated main event for Showtime boxing since 2015, Wilder versus Stavern. So that's good. You know what I mean? Because it hasn't been beaten in 2-3 years or whatever. And it also beat the same dueling telecast. HBO had Sergey Kovalev versus Igor Mikhalkin the same night. So once again, what's up with throwing out Dillian Whyte? He just fought Luis Ortiz. And then you look at after Joshua, I could do this all day. Joshua versus Carlos Takam. Eddie Hearn was in the ring and he says, oh, Wilder versus Joshua 2018. It must happen. It must happen. Then he does a recent interview. And in that recent interview, I did a video about it. In that recent interview, Eddie Hearn admits after seeing the Luis Ortiz fight that Deontay Wilder is beatable, but he's also very dangerous. He says AJ thinks he can beat Deontay Wilder. He thinks he can beat him. And he thinks the fight could happen in 2018 if all goes well. You know what I mean? Like, what if you said the fight was happening in 2018? So you could make a statement like, oh, if he beats Joseph Parker, the fight's next. You know what I mean? But instead, like I said, it's been a lot of double talk from Eddie Hearn and money and asking random people in New York who Wilder is. None of that matters. So I like Shelly Finkel. His approach is like really direct, really no nonsense, and it sounds believable. It really does. Like if you just listen to what he's saying, I got a letter from Eddie Hearn November 29, 2017, which he showed at the press conference. He said he met with Eddie Hearn's dad the day before or whatever it was to talk about it. They're bringing up Dillian Whyte, and he's like, sure, we'll fight Dillian Whyte if we can get a Joshua guarantee, right? Which is pretty much what Wilder was saying. You know what I mean? And then if you look at the interviews around that time, Eddie Hearn was like, oh, that's not how it works. It's a case-by-case basis. We deal with one fight at a time. Why would I promise you something without the outcome to one fight? You know what I'm saying? So I can't wait for March 31st. It's a good fight. It's a unification. Joshua Parker to be on Showtime. And Joshua's next move, should he win, is going to be very important to the sport of boxing. And we'll see how bad Eddie Hearn, Barry Hearn, and AJ want to make the Joshua Wilder fight. Because at the time of right now, like March 31st, there's really nothing to talk about. Wilder said his piece. Joshua says his piece on Wilder. They both we got to see it. That's the ultimate way to solve this. Fans don't have to keep arguing on who would win. Let's just see it. And listen, I'm going to say this. I'm going to keep saying this because I believe it. Joshua Wilder winner brings back the heavyweight division. Them fighting, just based on their styles, I see it probably ending in a knockout. So it's not going to be, you know, people complain. I didn't have a problem with Mayweather-Pacquiao, for the record. I didn't think it was as atrocious and horrific as people thought. I thought Pacquiao should have took more chances, and then he probably would have got possibly knocked out, or it would have been more action at the very least. But he tried to box more, remembering the Juan Manuel Marquez knockout and shit. But anyway, I don't even think Mayweather-Pacquiao was that bad, but some of the critics did. They said, oh, it was boring. We waited all this time for this. I really don't see how Joshua and Wilder won't produce. I mean, just look at their last couple fights. You know what I mean? Either been serious knockouts, or their biggest test for Wilder, Luis Ortiz, was a roller coaster event. You know what I mean? For Joshua, his biggest test, Klitschko, was a roller coaster type fight. Up and down, high suspense, drama. So, I mean, if they fight each other, I think it'll be more of the same. So, I think that fight would really bring back the heavyweight division, and we would have one king, the king of Wakanda, someone sitting on the throne. And guess what? If Wilder and Joshua fight this year, after Wilder fought Luis Ortiz and Joshua fought Joseph Parker, and then if they meet in the middle and fight each other, then as an undisputed champion, nobody's going to sweat them on their next fight. That's a hell of a crescendo to Joshua Wilder. You know what I mean? So if they decide, like, they're going to make a shit ton of money in this fight, Joshua Wilder, but if they decide they want to fight a third time in the year, or even their first fight next year, if it's not a rematch with each other, then nobody's going to be mad if they fought a low level. You know what I mean? You don't go through, no one's expecting a tough fight after tough fight after tough fight after tough. You know what I mean? No one realistic is expecting that. So they can almost, as undisputed, they can chill a little bit and fight somebody they should beat, like Freso Quindo or whoever. You know what I'm saying? Dominic Brazil rematch with AJ, or Wilder and Dominic Brazil. No one's going to be tripping off of that if they just became undisputed. You know what I mean? It's like Terrence Crawford. He was undisputed at 140. If he stayed at 140, no one's going to be like, oh, you have to fight Regis Prograis. You have to fight in your next fight Jose Ramirez and Miramon winner. You know what I mean? It'd be nice, but after a tough schedule, you don't have to do that. You can take a lighter fight. You know what I'm saying? Unless you wanted the toughest option out there. So it's going to be real interesting March 31st after and what happens. But like I said, it really feels like Wilder, his team, has been very transparent with the situation. And I can't say the same exact thing for Eddie Hearn, because, again, Dillian White's being thrown out. No one's asking for Wilder versus Dillian White. I think he fought the harder option last week or whatever versus Luis Ortiz. You know what I mean? Throwing out stuff, we have to overpay all these guys. I mean, that's y'all business. What y'all get for budgets and how much money and purse splits and who sold out stadiums, that's y'all business, because y'all are on the cutting room floor. And bringing that up to fans is only giving ammunition for casual fans to run with that bullshit. But if you're a real boxing fan, unless you're getting a cut of Eddie Hearn, Barry Hearn, AJ Wilder, Shelly Finkel, unless you're getting a cut of the money, it really shouldn't matter. You know what I mean? If you went to school with Wilder in Alabama and he's going to break bread with you, then that might be something different. So you might have a vested interest on how much he's going to get. But if that doesn't apply to you, then you should just want to see great fights and fights that uplift the sport. This is one of them. So I like Shelly Finkel. He seems like a no-nonsense type dude. Heard him speak. You know what I mean? Briefly met him at Wilder Stavern 2. So that's my thoughts. I think it's all eyes on Joshua. Wilder, he can rest. He can go on vacation. He just got past his tough test in Luis Ortiz. Joshua's in there with Joseph Parker, which could be a good-sized test. And Wilder keeps proving people wrong. Like, nobody in New York knows him, but he had a crowd of 14,069 at the Barclays, which was the second highest since, I think, maybe a Danny Garcia fight. And Danny Garcia is at least from the East Coast. Wilder's from Alabama. You know what I'm saying? So that's a healthy crowd. Plus, you got $2.1 million to fight against Luis Ortiz. It's not a bad paycheck. Is it selling 90,000 or whatever Joshua got for Klitschko? No, but who cares? Every fighter has a different journey and different fan base, and they live in different regions. And I like what Shelly Finkel says, and I told you guys, 2018 new media, get used to it. Shelly Finkel says the fact of the matter is I'm not negotiating on 50-50 on that whole premise and that whole ideology. If the deal is right and it's not exactly 50-50, we'll take it. So a lot of people, because they heard Wilder say it, see, this is the thing. I don't know if you guys think Wilder is stupid, but Wilder has a team. He can say whatever he wants as a fighter, but he always is if you have a strong team, you're going to have people that maybe scale you back and say, hey, this and that, we got you the best deal we could get. It's not 50-50, but you're going to make X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? So everybody wanted to run with it because Wilder said some shit about 50-50 or no fight. He's a fighter. He wants to fight. He feels he's worth it, or whatever the case may be. But then you hear his own manager, who's in charge of managing his career. That's what a manager is. Look up the definition. And the manager, Shelly Finkel, is saying it's not about 50-50 per se. It's a monetary thing. He's saying I don't pay my rent based on a percentage. I pay rent based on what the fighter gets, what's in my pocket. So, you know what I'm saying? He's saying if we get a good deal, then good deal is a good deal and we'll accept it. And the other thing that Wilder's team has been very transparent on, that's a good word. I think Wilder's team overall has been more transparent. Like, what they've said has been pretty clear and has been consistent from all parties. Not always, because like I said, Shelly Finkel is saying, I don't care about 50-50 per se. We care about what the end result is, what the final number is, versus Wilder said, I want 50-50 or no fight, or whatever the hell he said to ESPN, right? But in general, by and large, I think Team Wilder's been a lot more consistent. You know what I mean? Like AJ said, I might never fight in America. We got a good thing going here, so I might not ever need that. I don't know if I need that. But then Eddie Hearn's talking about Gerald Big Baby Miller possibly at the Barclays, right? And Gerald Big Baby Miller is my dude. Shout out to Brooklyn. But there's no way after the Luis Ortiz performance from Wilder and him being a champion with the only missing link to Undisputed, there's no way you're going to tell me that Joshua, if he gets past Parker, him fighting Gerald Big Baby Miller is a bigger fight in America than fighting Wilder in America. So if you're willing to come to America for Gerald Big Baby Miller, who has no belt to offer you and probably won't generate as much money, no, I know it won't generate as much money, then what are we really talking? All that, oh, the fight needs to marinate, that shit is bullshit. Like I said before, if you have a steak and you marinate it for 2 days, a day, that's cool. But if you leave that steak, that same steak that you marinated, in that fridge for 6 months and then try to cook it, you'll probably get food poisoning. You might even die, or you'll get clenbuterol in your system or some shit, because that meat is not meant to sit out and just be waiting and chilling like that. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to cook it promptly. You know, when you go to a grocery store and you look at the meat and it says fresh by or sell by this date, sell by March 10th, the reason they say that is because they need to get rid of it and you need to use it. Use by this date. That's why sometimes grocery stores, if they have something that's about to expire, they'll put it on clearance, because they rather get rid of it for a cheaper price than have to throw it away or mark it out of their inventory and lose money just off top, right? So that's the whole thing with this marinating. Joshua Wilder, as long as Joshua gets past Joseph Parker, really in any fashion, as long as it's not controversial, as long as people don't feel that Joseph Parker was robbed, then there is no better timing for Joshua Wilder. Wilder's coming off a fight where he was vulnerable, where it's the best name on his resume in the minds of people. He was challenged. So as long as Joseph Parker, people don't feel he was robbed versus Joshua, this is the time. If Joshua knocks him out, of course, make it. If it goes to decision and Joshua clearly won, then this is the great time. Because if Joshua then fights Gerald Big Baby Miller and Wilder, let's say, fights Dominic Breazeale, then Dominic Breazeale, who already got stopped by Joshua, that's not going to make people feel, oh yes, I must see Joshua Wilder because Wilder beat Dominic Breazeale. You know what I'm saying? So this whole marinating and letting it grow, that's a facade, because again, the only way this marinating thing works, new media style, I always keep it real with you guys. The only way the marinating thing works is if fighters are constantly fighting the types of names that would make the fighter grow or make the fight grow. You know what I mean? Namely household names, mainly people who are stars, right? Like, for example, let's say a promoter says, oh, I want Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. I want to marinate that fight. The only way to really marinate it, to make it a bigger fight in the future, is one, if they both keep winning and both keep impressing, and they're both fighting great competition, like Terrence Crawford, Jeff Horn. Then Errol Spence fights Keith Thurman, and then Terrence Crawford fights Manny Pacquiao, a household name, and he defeats them. And then Errol Spence takes on another big name, you know what I'm saying? But if Errol Spence is fighting Ocampo and then Jesse Vargas and Omar Figueroa, that's not going to make the fight between Terrence Crawford and himself explode. Like, oh, now because I beat Carlos Ocampo and because I beat Omar Figueroa, now this fight is going to do an exponential amount of money, more than it would have done. So for me, Joshua Wilder, timing is now. All eyes on Joshua, March 31st. Shout out to Shelly Finkel, Team Wilder, Team Joshua, Eddie Hearn. Let's get it. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Make sure you smash the like button as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.